The People's National Congress Reform, PNCR, presents Nation Watch.
Good evening and welcome to special edition of Nation Watch. I'm your host, Mervyn Williams. As you know, Nation Watch is a production of the People's National Congress Reform, and we're coming to you live from Congress Place to File. This evening, as advertised, I have a very special guest, and we'll be having, I believe, quite a very interesting conversation. I'd like to welcome to Nation Watch Dr. Cheddi Jagan Jr., known to us all fondly as Joey. Welcome to you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, the last time we had a sit down and chat would have been in Letham,
right?
Just after that mega rally,
right?
When we were all working for the re-election of President David Granger.
Mm-hmm.
From then to now, lots of things have happened. Right. How have you been during that time?
I've been all right. I've been fine. I just, some personal problems. I had some back surgery and things like that. Spinal surgery. So you heal up, and you move on. That's what you do. I was telling somebody last night, I got 3 pieces of metal in my body, one in my back, and I had what you call a fusion. So they put a metal piece to lock in your vertebrae. I got a rod in my leg, and I got steel up here. So I'm like the man of steel.
Man of steel. Man of steel. In more ways than one. Right. Joy, you are from a working class family.
Right.
You are from a family that stood by the working class.
Right.
You are from a family that advocated for improvement in the quality of life for the working class.
Right.
You are from a family that stood up for the rights of the working class. You defended the rights of the working class at all levels. Guyana has become a wealthy country. For some, perhaps.
Right.
The numbers are big. The volume of oil is tremendous.
Right.
The potential for growth is enormous. But the working class in this country, that special group of people that your family has stood up for and defended and advocated for, is not benefiting from the wealth, from the oil resources of this country. How do you feel about this? And how do you feel about the fact that this situation where the working class is not benefiting from the resources stems largely from growing inequalities in the distribution of the resources of state? How does this affect you?
Well, I read a lot. I'm reading a book right now. I just finished reading a book about World War II. It's an 800-page book on Stalin and how he was the big winner in World War II, and it's true. And I'm reading a book now on the French Revolution. And when the French Revolution occurred in 1789, a year before the French Revolution, nobody even thought it could happen, and it happened. And the same thing will happen here if people don't heed the working class needs. The same thing will happen here. Just like the French Revolution, people are going to rebel because Guyanese have a history of rebellion in them, starting with Mr. Coffee. And when the people talk about the father of the nation, as far as I'm concerned, Coffee is the father of the nation. Coffee. This Coffee started it. And we rebelled right through. Jagan was a rebellious man.
And his son as well.
Right. Well, I don't think of myself as rebellious, really. I don't think of myself because one of the reasons I couldn't get ahead in the PPP is because I'm too much on the right. And maybe you might find me too much on the right, but I'm on the right when it comes to certain things. Like, for example, I'm for republicanism. I'm a Republican in America. I don't like the way the Republican Party going now with Trump. He's a waste of time and a clown. But the Republican Party is a party that has a history behind it. George Washington didn't have republicanism then, but he didn't be a Republican. Lincoln was a Republican. You understand? But Ronald Reagan was a great president. He was a Republican. You understand? So Eisenhower was a great president. He was a Republican. So I'm a Republican in one sense that is most important, given let local government flourish. I don't believe in central government running everything. And that applies to every government we had. And when you talk about the natural resources, listen to me. Guyana always had natural resources. Always.
Mhm.
And what do we do with it? For example, when you talk about the working class, I've always been committed to the working class. I don't think anybody could doubt it because I have to go and check Joey. Joey was the son of a prime minister, chief minister, prime minister, and president. And go and examine what Joey get out it.
Two presidents.
Right. Two presidents. I know Godfather was president.
Exactly.
God bless his soul. What I'm saying to you is that show me, go and check my bank accounts. Come and see where I live and see what I got, which is nothing much out there. I never looked for position. I always was interested in seeing the working people of this country flourish and do well. I believe everybody in this country could have a lot of money, good money to live a good life, right? But we need to start doing things. And I don't want to go into the past and blame anybody. Everybody made mistakes, but to go and you got to know your history though, right? But to go back in the past and blame, we always had resources. And what did our leaders do with it? Where did we benefit? All we did was run out the country, which still happening. Go down by the post, by the passport office now. See how many people leaving. Check the planes. People still running out of Guyana with all the resources we always had. That's why, for example, when our leaders can tell me about helping the working people, I got practical ways to help the working people. Why they don't try listen to what I saying for change? For example, take housing. Why we can't give people free wood and free land to build a house? I don't understand what's going on here. All the forests when you fly in it is sheer forest. You know that. Why our people gotta pay for house and for land? It should be free. They're gonna help the working people. All the money we spend in this stadium and that stadium. In the meantime, the working people don't have proper electricity, water, and sewage. But we building new roads and new this and that, and it's all of them are the same basically. I ain't seeing much difference. That's my problem. You understand? I ain't seeing you talk the talk, and when you gotta walk the walk when you get into power. This is when you're walking the walk. You're walking, you're stumbling around. All of them. So I got a serious problem. This is why I believe that no matter which party or which ideology, it all comes down to one thing. Let the young people run the country. Young people promote them. When I talk about sharing power like my father believed in, for example, the winner should not take all. If you're going to share power, share it with the younger members of the opposite party, not the old people. They had their time. They had their period. Let the young people flourish in this country. And we're going to see great advances. And the working people must flourish. Yeah, I agree with that.
What is your view on this rising cost of living, how it's affecting the working class citizens in this country, even in the face of an emerging oil and gas sector with tremendous potential and,
Right.
and wealth? What can we do differently as a country to ensure that this shock from the cost of living doesn't hit home as hard as it's hitting home right now?
Well, first of all, I believe that well, if anybody checks my background in talking about the oil and gas, I'm no expert, but I always welcome Exxon here. You know that.
Yeah.
Always welcome him here. And I haven't, people might criticize Exxon, that's their problem, not mine. I don't get into that because I know the history of Mr. John D. Rockefeller, we he set up with the first company he had, Standard Oil,
Yeah.
which broke in. They took him to court and broke up his corporation, the
Rockefeller
Standard Oil
Foundation, yeah.
in 1912, broke up Standard Oil. And when they were finished, it broke it into 8 parts. And when they were finished, and a couple of years passed, it turns out he made money from the deal. He got richer. He was so smart. So, we know what Exxon Mobil is about. Everybody knows. If you're stupid. The regular guy, this is not stupid. They know it's a white man coming here, and the white man looking to do one thing, make money. right? They always was looking for they know to destroy everything and build it back, right? Look at Ukraine. They can destroy and they can build it back. People can make money. You understand? So what I'm saying is our future is not oil and gas. I don't look at it that way. I look at because we always had all the other things. We got all them forests, water. I look at our future as agriculture. We need to specialize in agriculture. And doesn't carry only cost of living. If we have a policy our leaders could agree on, I'm not a leader or a leader, that all food produced in Ghana for export, you got to feed the guy, these people first. They must benefit first before you export anything. And everybody can make money. The exporters, the growers, everybody. And then my godfather, Mr. Barnum, gave us the answer. Cooperative farming, cooperatives. Now, where I disagree with Mr. Barnum is that he believes in cooperative socialism. I don't believe in that. I believe in cooperative capitalism. They must make money. This is all the working class. And then guess what? We got a great future in agriculture because I've studied this. If you look at California, they produce the biggest food supply of fruits in the world. How do they do it? They use migrant labor from Mexico. We got a lot of migrant labor we could bring here from all the countries around us and make big bucks.
But we choose apparently the preference for tapping into in terms of migrant market seems to be Afghanistan. That's what I've been hearing.
I don't believe in that. I believe we should bring migrants from places close to us.
Precisely.
And work out a deal. If they want to stay and live here and become citizens, okay, you could do that in 20 years. But you got to prove yourself first.
Your godfather started that with his St. Lucians and his St. Vincentians, working particularly in Madia and so on.
Right. Well, all those are good ideas. But what I'm saying, we need to move ahead and concentrate on our agricultural resources. They're going to bring down the price of food. For example, what they could do now, what any government should do now, is wipe out the consumption tax immediately. That's a waste of time. We have money. Why are you charging Guyanese a consumption tax of 14%? I was disappointed to tell you the truth.
Value-added tax.
Yeah.
The value-added tax.
Yeah. The VAT.
Yes.
It's Mr. Granger lowered it 2%.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. I thought it should be lowered to 6% and it should be wiped out completely. That's a waste of time. Since we are all producer, we should move we have to have objectives. Our objective with those kind of things should be no income tax at all. Well, we need income tax here if we're making all this money. So you can't get there overnight, but you could plan to get there.
Well, the opposition leader has been advocating for a removal of the personal income tax.
Yeah.
Particularly with respect to people earning $150,000 per month.
Okay.
In the first
Right.
Stage.
Yeah.
Joey, there seemed to be a departure from things Jagan.
Yeah.
There are serious allegations which have been leveled against a senior government official by Vice News, Mr. Jagdeo. There are allegations against him that reek of corruption and all that. Is this People's Progressive Party still, in your view, the party of Cheddi Jagan, what he worked for, what the party that he built, the party that he bequeathed to this nation? How are things in your estimation?
Well, I just wrote a letter in the paper, and I cited certain things of a political nature. For example, my father believed in sharing power.
Yeah.
I see Mr. Jagdeo got up and said he needs to trust people before he can share. I don't agree with that. I said, trust the young people of this country. That's who you got to trust. Look at me and you. The old people, we won't run anything we in power for. Let the young people with their ideas. Look at me. I don't even know the text. I know to use a phone, but I don't know the text. I don't want to know. But the way they do texting is unbelievable when I watch them. So let the young people flourish in this country. Oh my God. Old men run this country for too long. Let the young people flourish now. We shouldn't have no ministers in this country over 45, 50 years old. We need young people to run our country. We don't need no 25 ministers. This is why I disagree with that. My father, I used to talk to my father. He always aimed to bring down the ministries. Because you remember in the 60s, he had 6 ministers. And I've worked on that in my mind. And I think we could have 11, 12 ministers the most in this country. We don't need 25 minutes. All the money just wasting. It could go to the poor and the middle working class to help their lives. But nah, we wasting on all these like ministers of Aboriginal Affairs. What we need that for? You could have a commission of Aboriginal Affairs and give the Aboriginals everything they are due for. Like, for example, a casino where they run and there's all the only Aboriginals work there and all the profits are tax-free for them. Things like that the Aboriginals need. And they, because people come in, they like casinos. You understand? So things like that could be worked out. So, I feel that those are the things we need to be doing to move ahead. We have to have vision. You can't move ahead without a vision, but leave the young people to accomplish these things. They have the vision, not us. We living in the past, most of us. Want to blame this one and blame the one. Oh, this one. Yes, but to come to your question, yes, I feel that Cheddi Jagan was an innovative man. Cheddi Jagan was a man who could learn from his mistakes. That's why when you see Cheddi Jagan was railing and rallying against the white man for all them years, when he became president, he started to change some of his views, especially in foreign policy, to be viable. But then you got to remember now, Cheddi Jagan didn't have the same caliber of people he had in the 60s.
Right.
The Ramsey Hoys. Everybody had left.
Bridley and company.
Right. So, and people underestimated Brindley Ben, for example. Brindley Ben, I knew him. Brindley Ben was a man who was a very dapper man, always dressed sharp, always suit and tie. Balram Singh Rai, I hear a lot of controversy about Balram Singh Rai, for example. Balram Singh Rai's problem was that he was on the right. And when you're on the right and the leftist party, you got problems, right? But Balram Singh Rai, I knew him. He was Home Affairs Minister. I used to see him. He was, oh, wow. He had the perfect tie. He was perfect. His hair was well groomed. And he was a stalwart. He wasn't a dishonest man. He wasn't a thief. So, like I said in the letter, if you're in government and you commit corruption, here, my father always told me, don't accuse a man of corruption unless you got proof. Growing up, listened to that. So I don't want to make comments on people. Let the people judge them. Is the people got to judge them in the end. So all I'm saying is, corruption, my father viewed corruption and thievery in government as worse than murder.
I saw that in your letter.
My father told me to my face, you hear? He couldn't do it. But in communist countries, certain communist countries, like in Vietnam, if you caught in corruption in government, you're shot. And he told me that one time, he said, I wish I could do that. Just take them in the backyard and shoot them, but thieving from the people.
We might have no cabinet ministers in Guyana.
Well, I don't know, but I don't want to. But what I want to say, though, is I believe that in the PPP, they are good people.
Yes.
I'm not saying condemning all of them.
Yeah.
They are good people in the PPP, just like there are good people and bad people in every party.
Right.
It's your policy and how you carry it out. Because ultimately, you can't come to power if you don't win. I don't believe in no rigged election. Sorry. I don't go along with that. Right? That is not the way to go. Because any election from any party in this country is winnable if you do it right.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into a lot of things, but the last election, I felt could have gone the other way easily.
Some of us feel that it did, in fact, go the other way.
Well, I don't buy the one. I don't go along with that. Sorry, not me.
No, I'm just saying some of us do.
I feel, yeah, well, that's your right. But I feel, but so is my right. I feel you got to shake it off and move on.
And move on. Yes,
right, you got to move on and gather your forces for the next battle.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
But you got to move on. And the only way to move on, and there's another criticism I got, my father believed in coalition government. He believed in it. That's why he created the Civic. But the Civic that he created, he meant it to be viable and enduring. It's not. The Civic just got personality starting with Sam Hines. Just a personality. And guess what? Sam Hines, I'm going to say it publicly, he got to be the luckiest man Guyana ever had. Period. He joined. He was prime minister, president, ambassador now. You know what kind of money he can be drawing? He get away with murder. You understand what I'm saying? When I say get away with murder,
No,
he's
we
a lucky
understand.
man. So,
Yeah.
but did he represent any Civic? Could Sam Hines win Linden? He never did. So politics is a strange thing, you know. So people survive by doing whatever they got to do in politics. Some people thief their way through. Some, you know, they got a lot of them. They got some people who are honest, but they get submerged because they can't speak out. They go along with it. Look at the Republican Party in America. They going along with what Trump's saying. You understand? So that's what goes on.
This is a serious matter. And this is not asking you to judge anyone. This is a
Yeah.
case where a court of law in Guyana
Mm-hmm.
handed down a judgment a few days ago.
Okay.
His Honor Justice Gino Prasad ruled that the sitting president of this country,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Ali, violated the Constitution when he suspended the Police Service Commission.
Mm-hmm.
And he suspended the Police Service Commission on the advice of the Prime Minister, Mr. What's his name again?
Austin.
No,
No.
Mark Phillips, I think his
Oh,
name
yes,
is.
Mr. Phillips.
Yeah. And so
Is he a doctor, by the way?
no, he's ex-military.
Oh, I thought he was a doctor too. I see there's a lot of doctors around now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some with
Okay.
more.
He's a doctor.
Well.
I see even Peter Ramsrue is a doctor. Everybody's a doctor.
Yes, Dr. Jagan. No.
I always tell people, you know, this might sound egotistical, but I feel this is my personal feeling. Just like I brought up my children getting them lashes. Some people don't agree with her. But I believe if you can't write a prescription, you're no doctor. Sorry. You understand? And that's the way I feel about it. It's very simple.
Well, in this case, Dr. Ali
Yeah.
prescribed
Yes.
the
okay.
suspension of the Police Service Commission.
And the judge said
And
no.
the judge said that it was in fact a violation
You know, I agree with the judge.
of
I don't know all the
the
details,
Constitution.
but if the judge said that,
Yeah.
and he suspended the Police Service Commission, I don't agree with that. Sorry.
There are two things at play here, Joey. One is that Mr. Nandlal, the Attorney General,
Yeah.
on the 17th of October 2017, he said, there's an article in the Guyana Times, which article I shall read a part of. Making his case for the impeachment of President Granger, Nandlal points to Article 94 of the Constitution of Guyana, which provides that the president may be removed from office if he or she commits any violation of the Constitution or any gross misconduct. This is what Nandlal is quoted as saying by this newspaper report of 2017. Now we have a situation where a court has in fact ruled that there was a constitutional violation by the sitting president.
But he's going to appeal that, isn't he?
Well, I think they would.
Well,
but there are two things that come to play here. One is, what would Dr. Jagan have done in the case of the advice to get rid of a police service commission, a constitutionally appointed body, allegedly because that body did not acquiesce to the wishes of the sitting president to promote certain people?
Oh, well, I don't know the details of it,
so
you enlighten me.
That's the first thing. Secondly, with Dr. Jagan as the leader of the People's Progressive Party, how do you believe he would have treated with a case of Mr. Ali in the context of a ruling like this?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. I really can't answer the question. All I know is that my father would have stuck within the Constitution. Whatever the Constitution said, he would have stuck with. I could tell you that. And if a court decided something, he would appeal it, which I assume Mr. Ali will appeal.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah,
yes.
well, then I really don't know the details of this. I really don't feel I have the competence to answer, but however, I feel we should uphold our Constitution. Of course, I believe that our Constitution should be changed. We need to change our Constitution, and nobody is attempting to do that. They should have meetings of national importance of not only political figures, but church figures, trade union figures, representative working people to trash out a proper constitution for this country. This country got too large a constitution with too many intricacies. Let us straighten it out. Too much government intervention in the lives of the people in this country. Like, for example, why do we need a minister of local government? For what reason? And you can't blame the PPP or the PNC alone. All of them encourage that. Minister of local government. Why do you need a, you see, as a Republican, why do we need a minister of local government? We should be giving autonomy to the local authorities and giving them help to develop their places. They know best. If you go to Plaisance, the people of Plaisance know best what they need than any government official. I don't care what anybody says. That's the truth.
We're on the
So
same
why,
page.
when are we going to get there where we could sit down and say, hey, let's trash this out. Let's get rid of all these ministers we got. Is the 10 region system working? Maybe we should look at what we had before. You know, I tell people, everybody talking about the future. You know why I believe? That before we get to the future, you ever saw the movie Back to the Future?
Part of it.
Right. We need to go back to the past to get to the future. We can't get nowhere else because I tell people when I was growing up in this country, I left here at 17, 18. I never experienced no blackout. I used to bathe in the second floor and get water pressure. We never had no sewage problems. Our roads, I used to ride a motorbike. They had no pothole. They had nothing on our streets in Georgetown. It was beautiful. I don't know why these governments can't fix Georgetown. It's the only city we got. And they won't fix it. None of them here. When I supported Apnu twice, you know I ran out of them.
Yes.
Nobody ever called me to ask me my opinion. Never once in the 5 years here in government. Never once. I had to give them some advice on ideas of what I think should be done. Right? I campaigned for them and nobody ever asked me. Same with the PP. It's the same story. They don't want new ideas. They want to stick within themselves and think we can go anywhere. We not. And you know what happened? The people gonna rebel in their own, like what the French did in their revolution, what the Haitians did. They're gonna rebel in their own. They ain't gonna worry no leaders no more. You see what happened in Suriname? What happened in Sri Lanka? You think they had any leaders? And people just had enough of the nonsense. Let the young people come to power. Why are these old people holding on to power? I don't understand.
Comment on what I would like to call the duplicity of Mr. Nandlal. On the one hand, in 2017, he talked about impeachment
Right.
of President Granger
Mhm.
for alleged violation of the Constitution. Here it is, you have a proven violation as
Right.
ordered by a court.
Right.
And Mr. Nandlal is talking about appealing the decision instead of accepting it and moving to the Article 94, I think he quoted, and impeaches his own president. What comment on what I see as
the only
duplicity
comment
there?
I got to make here, listen to me, right? I grew up in politics.
Mm.
I literally grew up in it. Both of my parents were active politicians. Let me tell you something. What Mr. Nandlal do is just politics. All of them play the same game. Politics is just I call it politics. It's just a bunch of politics going on. Everybody playing a game to get ahead with their political agenda, whatever agenda they got. In the meantime, you started the whole conversation talking with the working people.
Yeah.
In the meantime, what do working people get in there? More pressure, more hardship, no justice. They ain't got no justice in the system. Look, I can give you an example. I know because you see, them people like Freddie Kissoon, that idiot, get up there and talking all kind of nonsense, but people throw mess and he, hey, I get run down. I got a piece of steel here. If you see the mark, look at it. I show the whole public. Look at that. I get
Wow.
right on Rob Street. They never investigate the case. I never got justice in the court, and I was Jagan's son. I'm born of God, so I never get no justice in the court. Nobody gave me no compensation or no justice. I went to court 3 times, and the man who was accused of what he do, and the woman, they never show up. They just run me down. They never show up. Finally, the judge gonna send me a thing saying, you need to come to court tonight. I just take it and throw it in the garbage. I forget about that. What I'm saying then is that if I can't get justice, you think the regular man getting any justice in this country? And what are the politicians doing about it? They can create this committee. This is what the communists like to do, create a committee. For everything is a committee. It's all a waste of time. Give the young people the power. They have the vision. Let them come and work together. I believe the PNC and the PEP got good people. Let them work together and get rid of the bad apples out the barrel. This is what we got to do.
But it appears as though the bad apple is running the barrel across at the PPP.
Yeah, well, that can happen. Here, listen to me, right? I have studied history, and to me, we Guyanese people are smart, yeah, politically, and you gotta praise Barnum and Jagan for that. They made them smart. The problem we got is the racial separation, right? Is a big problem. But the only way to solve that is to share power and work together to build this country. Millions come in. We got potential in gold, water, diamonds, all kind of things we could do here and make money and live good. All you gotta do is put your hands together and work together. What's the problem? There's enough to go wrong for everybody. One man ain't gotta be a billionaire and the other man ain't got nothing. Everybody could have something.
Now, I want to draw your attention. I know that some of these things may have missed you, but I'd like to draw your attention to some things that happened.
Mhm.
Some things that even those of us in the People's National Congress reform believe would never have happened under Cheddi Jagan.
Okay.
Homes were demolished in Linden. People were accused of squatting. Homes were demolished in Mocha. People were accused of squatting, and the government required the land for some road that never went anywhere close to where the people were living and rearing livestock and enjoying a decent quality of life. People were displaced at Pontrench Dam in just outside
Yeah, I've heard of that.
because Edge Hill wanted to build a concrete strip and put a couple chairs to for people to sit down, instead of fixing the roads in Albaistown, all of which are in deplorable state. Businesses were demolished in Charity. Businesses were demolished in New Market Street. The mayor was arrested for standing up for the citizens of Georgetown, who he believed had a right to earn.
Right.
And he had represented that they had lawful authority of the city council to do what they were doing, plying their trade.
Right.
Homes 2 days or so ago were demolished at Purikasi Dam, where people have been living for 3 generations. A lady with her children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren even. Their homes have all been demolished. The PNC party office in Lethem, an office
I heard you had a problem.
was partially demolished. Why this exercise of power, this demonstration of executive lawlessness? Is there any place in a society in this time of our world for this kind of behavior?
Well, here, I don't know all the details, but I don't make excuses for anything like that. I feel that first of all, I feel, as I told you before, people should be given free land in this country. We shouldn't be charging people a dime for land. I talk about the working people who need a house. Me talking about the rich and famous and the middle, they could take care of themselves. I talking about the working poor. That's what I call it here. They should be given free land. Don't get me wrong now. If you got to put a new road down or a new hospital and they there on the land, first of all, I don't feel you need to move them off the land because we got enough land. But if there was a case where you put in a new road and it's planned out, you gotta compensate them and give them a piece of land for free somewhere. And people are not stupid and help them build a house. Well, as I said, I feel government should stay out of the people's lives, except for things. And my father believed these things too. Like we could have, but I believe in the 3 counties. I don't believe in the 10 regions. I believe in 3 counties: Berbice, Demerara, Essequibo. That's it. Kids ain't gotta learn all them, and you ain't even know you're there sometime. You're there in region 10, you ain't even know what region 10 is. You understand? So what I'm saying is they could have a sawmill, a government sawmill in each county that cutting the wood, the people going to cut or they're making arrangements, cut wherever you want. It don't matter. Cut. Go and cut the trees down to make your house. And you bring it to the sawmill, you pay a small fee, which I believe government should intervene in things like that. Not to go in and uh, have a big ministries and 10 and 25. I feel the government should restrict itself and give more autonomy to the people. Not occupying the land and taking them off the land. I don't agree with that. There's enough land for every single. As a matter of fact, I believe there should be a lotto. Once a person in Ghana reach 18 years old, they have a lotto where they get a free piece of land. You could do whatever you want. You could sell it the next day. You could do what you want, but you get a one opportunity where everybody over 18 get a free piece of land to build their own house. That's why I believe Ghana should be given to people. So coming back to that, I don't necessarily agree with squatting, right? I think squatting is degrading to a person. They must own their own property. What is squatting for? We got enough land for everybody to own their own piece of earth where they could grow a little garden, grow some food, and exist and live in Guyana peacefully and happily. Now, the troubles we have here in Guyana, economic, political, religious, is all due to the mistakes of the politicians who run this country. Every single part of it is due to their run it in a wrong way, right? Tolerating. Show me one minister from either government, from either party. Show me one minister from each part, from any party, who was ever arrested and convicted of corruption. Show me one. Show me one. None. So that tells you a story right there. Yeah, okay, we know all them, this one corrupt, the one corrupt. And then people make up things. You don't even know how corrupt they are. I remember you used to say Brandy was a thief. Brandy the thief of money, Brandy Ben. Brandy Ben had no money. When he after minister, he used to drive taxi to make a living. Boise Ramkaran. Oh, he had millions. He had nothing. Boise was a regular guy. These guys were honest. They weren't thieves and hustlers. So all I'm saying is, we got ways to find out who's grifters. They got ways. Look at all them countries all over the world that catching men for locking up prime ministers and presidents for thieving and graft. Right now in Pakistan, they're trying to lock up the cricketer.
Imran.
Right? So what I'm saying is, those who believe they're safe, they better watch out, because they ain't. When the people talk, everything walk. You hear what I'm telling you? Like I read about the French Revolution, it just carried itself. It carried itself as the first real revolution they have had in this whole world, really. And it carried itself. They started to deal with it. And guess what? You know what they realized? That guess what? The rich and famous is about 100,000 MOVs, 30 million. And they took things into their own hands. And this is what the Guyanese people are going to have to do eventually. Take things in their own hands. If these politicians can't work it out, there's your chance. We getting money. We got great future. Why you can't hold hands and work things out? All of these Guyanese, we like the same things. Just work it out.
After Dr. Jagan, whenever the People's Progressive Party, from the tenure of Jagdeo
Mhm.
to now, found itself backed against the wall,
Right.
as is the case now, where Jagdeo himself is accused of being involved in all sorts of um, untoward behavior by the Vice News
Right.
journalist.
I saw that.
There are unsolved murders in this country, some of which active police persons are alleged to be involved in. there was a murder a few meters away from State House, where the president's official residence, that is, unsolved. All the cameras stopped working around that time. The cost of living spiking out of hand, insufficient salary increases for the working class, and a number of other things that are happening adversely affecting us as a nation. And so the People's Progressive Party is once again under the thumb of Bharat Jagdeo and backed against the wall. And so your father had a birth anniversary recently.
Yeah.
And as the People's Progressive Party would do from time to time, they retreated to his hallowed burial site and started to appeal to the supporters and so on, and use the name of Dr. Jagan. And I quote from the letter which you published recently, where you said, those who utilize Cheddi Jagan's name to create political justification for their actions should look in the mirror to see if that great man is smiling at their actions.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody could see it more eloquently than you did in this letter. How do you feel as the son of Cheddi Jagan, the son of Janet Jagan, two presidents who molded not just you, but a party and left it for this country, an institution that will live on for a very, very long time, same as your godfather created the People's National Congress, and it continues to live on. How do you feel about what is happening and what happens ritualistically almost at Babujan in the name of your father?
Well, I grew up with my father, and I learned the same thing. I come back to the same thing, that the working class and the poorer people in this country deserve a break. Running to America in the break they deserve. They deserve better pay and better conditions of living, right? You go to Babujan, go into quarantine, drugs on the rise, crime on the rise, unemployment on the rise. They ain't got no good jobs there. They building a stadium in Barbies. Why they can't create investment and jobs? Whoever is in power. This going on for donkey's years, brother. When you talk about murder, at one time in Guyana, under your government, they had kicked down the door bandits and all kind of nonsense going on. You remember the other crazy one, Rabbi Washington? Remember him? So what I'm saying then is that I just do to show you what they could say.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So what we gonna do? Keep talking with Wisma and Rabbi Washington and break down the door bandits, and then the other side, this and but our Jag. Here, listen. I remember telling Moses, right? Because nobody else would talk to me. I just tell you the facts. I don't lie. I got no reason to lie. I wasn't looking for nothing. Never. Nothing. I remember telling Moses, why y'all don't approach Bar Jagdeo and use him? I don't want to use the word use. Utilize him as a roving ambassador with the same thing. Remember, he was King Art or whatever he was. Remember, King Bharat, right? Use him and utilize him. He's in opposition to go wrong, and I would urge him to do the same thing. Take Mr. Norton and utilize him and other people, young people in the PN, utilize them to forget about all them stories. That's part of politics. Every country got the same thing. And let us work together to build this country. Forget about the background, Barnum and Jagan and all. Barnum and Jagan was friends in a lot of ways. You understand? They share the same ideology. When Barnum was doing what he was doing, Jagan was raising his hand and said, yeah, do it. Nationalize the bauxite company, which was wrecked. Nationalize the phone company, which was wrecked. Nationalize this, nationalize all wrecked. And what's the result? Guyanese running as fast as they can out there, black and Indian. Go to Brooklyn and tell me about black people not running out of Guyana. I was there. So all I'm saying is, We've been through that. Now that God's smiling at we, I'll. And guess what? They're moving to electric. And as I said, what are we doing with water and electricity? We talk about oil and hydropower. Why we can't bring the only power, colonial power that stayed in the Caribbean was the French. They got Cayenne, they got Martinique. They're still there, and the people happy, much happier than most other. Why we can't bring the French here? The French got a great future. I could tell you that. Bring the French here and let them build us a nuclear power plant. Let them take over our water. They're good at it and solve our problems, our water and sewage. But nah, Mr. Hyde showed us the way, and Mr. Greenwich. Mr. Hyde showed us the way. I like Mr. Hyde. Mr. Hyde took over GT&T. He privatized it. Now GT&T, you could pick up a phone and call Moscow. Before you couldn't even call across the road when the government owned it. Same thing happening now. Parting electricity, government owned it. It didn't function for us. The other day, they had a blackout. I was bathing. This is no joke. This week, I was bathing. Blackout. I had to go downstairs naked at the side of my building. Because me and Kay, I come out the cold front. I walked down there naked and I bathed and I couldn't believe the color of the water. Because I got a filter. So when I bathe in, I don't see the color. But I can't believe that's what they're getting, guys. These people, you talk, come back to what you saying, working people, they don't deserve better. Don't working people deserve better than that? Nah, we know better. We're going to build a stadium for them. We're going to put in a new road over so that don't even affect them. But we ain't going to get them no water, electricity, no proper sewage. No, we ain't going to do that. And this is the kind of governments we got here running this country. And as I said, and come back to what I was saying, the Guyanese people are smart. They got leaders. Right now, there's a coffee out there. It might be 10 or 12, but there's a coffee. Because we got rebellion in our blood. Rebellion right through, starting with coffee. So I ain't worried about that. I'm optimistic about the future. Because I read in a book, as I said, in the French Revolution, and after the revolution, Bonaparte came. Napoleon Bonaparte. And he was a great leader. To this day, things that he did still stand. And the French are still there. And they got a whole republic. They got rid of their king. So maybe we're going to reach a point where we got to get rid of we kings that we got. Because they want to live like kings, you see? They want to live in fancy mansions and live the best life. And we, the rest of we, must live like slaves. They ain't going to work no more. People don't want to hear though. I don't have nothing against rich people. I believe rich people drive an economy. They're good investors. They have vision for business. I'm all for that. My father used to tell me here that at all costs, we need to protect the local bourgeoisie against the foreign bourgeoisie. Don't let them come in and displace. But that ain't happening. Look at what happened from you know who. In the East, they coming in here and displacing our local businessmen. That ain't right. We can't be allowing them.
But they're being facilitated.
Right, they are. Of
You
course, they can just show up here.
Yeah.
Somebody letting them in.
Yeah.
Right.
The EID card is a ticketing.
Right.
But you mentioned in your letter your father's embrace of the position that the winner should not take all.
Yes.
You mentioned that here
Right.
as well tonight.
I believe in it fully.
But what is our reality? Our reality is that the gentleman who seemed to be managing the president
Right.
has made it clear that, you know, the PPP is not ready for power
I saw
sharing.
that. I saw that. But he said there's no trust.
There's no
You have
trust.
to develop trust.
Yeah. But
I don't agree with that. I understand where he's coming from. I don't agree with it, but it's self-serving.
he's the
And
he's
I
the
don't
man
agree
who
with
has
that.
breached trust, because under Mr. Hoyt, we had set up the Depressed Communities Committee, which was a bipartisan committee.
Yeah.
That was given the responsibility of identifying communities, underprivileged communities, for want of a better word, from both sides of the political divide,
Mm-hmm.
and that we work together. James McAllister was our point man,
Mm-hmm.
and Barrett Jagdeo was the point man for the other side.
Okay.
And it started we started working. Was it Jagdi or Gail Teixeira? Forgive me, I don't remember which of them. But the committees were set up, the work had started, and then somebody in the People's Progressive Party said, "Oh, we're not going to go with this anymore." So, how do you build trust in that kind of environment?
Exactly. See, that's why my view is that politics is a risky business. We know that. You know that.
Yeah.
Right. And therefore, you must take risks. It's a risky business. You must take risks.
Your father took a risk with Sam
Yeah,
Hines.
lots of risks. Not only Sam. My father took many risks. My father uh, took many risks with many different people who betrayed him, but he carried on. But when it's a risky business, you can't come up with the fact that you don't trust the other side. There ain't no basis for ever doing anything. All we can do is left the way we are with we hands like this, slapping at each other. Instead of working together, we can be slapping on each other constantly. And then get the working people are the ones who will suffer the most. Not us. The politicians don't suffer. They get through. It's just like the preachers. I always tell people if my dentistry fail me, I can't do no dentistry no more. I can become a preacher. Yes, sir. That's why I want to be a preacher. They know to make money. So what I'm saying is, they're good. I practice. There's another story though. But what I'm saying is, being a preacher and a Christian, not all you gotta know is exactly. I've studied them. You got to be able to say Jesus Christ the right way. If you could say it the right way, you're a successful preacher. You just gotta say it the right way.
Dr. Cheddi
Right?
Jagan Jr. We have maybe about 5 or 6
But coming
minutes.
back to that quickly, Mr. Jagner is wrong. My father would have never taken that approach. Never, ever. Right? And them is the kind of examples that where you got to look up to Cheddi Jagan from the PP's perspective and follow what he believed in. For example, I come back to Mr. Hyde. I remember one time when they had the troubles in '98. And this is God's truth. I told my mom, I went to my mom, I said, Mom, let me and you go over to Mr. Hyde's house, rap in his door, and invite Mr. Hyde into your government. Couldn't be done. But that was the answer. If we had done that, she had ample, she never, she didn't go because there had other people that tell her not to go.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is the same concept then. We don't have no trust. Right? They didn't trust. But Mr. Hyde was worth taking the risk. That's why I felt.
I think
You
he
understand?
was a statement of excellence. Statement of excellence.
Yes,
Yeah.
I feel Mr. Hyde was a very good leader. He had his faults. We know that. But overall, is when my father came into government, I told my father, I said, Dad, here's an opportunity. I showed him, he had papers in his study. People don't know all these things. I'm writing a book now with it, personal thing. He had a bookcase and studied all kind of papers, and I was going through them because he'd never go through them. He had time for them. And I'd go through them and look through. And I found a speech by Mr. Greenwich in Islamabad, Pakistan in the 70s. We talked about foreign investment, a beautiful speech where he explained you got to be careful, carpet baggers and all that. And I told my father, I said, Dad, Mr. Hyde, Mr. Greenwich gave you a 6% growth rate. That is significant.
Precisely.
And why don't you bring Mr. Greenwich and make him your finance minister? Because I'm asking the question the other day. If I was the leader of Ghana today, because people say me, Joe, you could have been leader. I never even tried, so I didn't even want to think about it. But if I was the leader, I'd bring Mr. Greenwich and make him, I'd make him financial czar of this country. Yeah. He's a czar. Everybody got to listen to him now. Right? Because I think he was smart. He ran this, and you know what his smartness was? He ran this economy on a bootstrap.
Yep.
For many years.
Yep.
And that's amazing.
Which many of us are not appreciative of.
No, you got to appreciate that. That's why, coming back to one last thing, when Mr. Granger formed his government, I wish somebody could have listened to me because the first mistake he made was making Mr. Greenwich foreign affairs instead of finance minister. That's the first mistake he made, right? And he mightn't think about it, but if he thought about it, he would regret that.
We got just a couple of minutes,
Yeah.
what, 3-4 minutes
Right,
remaining.
right.
Recent elections have taught us, if we didn't know
Yeah.
before, that there's a 1% that separates
Right.
the PPP
Right.
from the other side, the
Right.
PNC and
Right.
partners. Why, therefore, is it so difficult to, in the interest of the whole
Right.
of the nation, cooperate?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
No, what makes it difficult? What do you think makes it difficult? What are the inhibiting factors outside of Jagdeo's claim to trust?
Communism. Communism. It might sound stupid, but it's because of the ingrained communist mentality. That's why today, even though it's a party that's moving to the right, it's obvious if you looked at it, in a big, broad spectrum, it is moving to the right. Nothing wrong if they want to move to the right, move to the right. The guy in India, he moved to the right, and the Congress can't get back in with that guy. That guy too smart. But that guy is smart because when they had the flood, he go down there. So is the communists ingrained in their mentality? Because, for example, the PNC shed that democratic centralism thing long ago. They still hold on to it. So it's the same thing happening. It's a philosophy in their mind. They can't shake it, right? Communists don't trust nobody else. That's the way they think. That's their mentality, and they got it from nowhere. I ain't gonna say away. They got it from certain places. Some people were more stringent communists than others, right? You know that. Even though the PNC party might not be as communistic, you grew up in it, or you know people in it, that they had people who necessarily didn't agree. For example, in the party, the PPP, they had the revisionists, the ultra-leftists, the petty bourgeois revisionists, the sectarian. So that is the way it is. The Trotskyites, remember them? It's all splits and thing, and it's fun. So it's a mentality that they got.
Last
And
question.
that's why, basically.
Last question.
Yeah.
We are rushing into local government election. You spoke earlier about your view. You told us your view with respect to local
Yes,
governance.
yes.
You believe that there should be no minister dictating to the
No,
10
none.
administrative regions.
Right,
And here now is the lower tier of local democracy,
right.
where we have 80 local authority areas. 10
Yeah.
of them are municipalities, and the others are neighborhood democratic councils. They're in excess of 600 and maybe 20 odd constituencies.
Right.
And we're going into these elections. But GCOM is taking us into these elections without having sanitized the voters
Right.
list. We are soon going to run into national regional elections. And GCOM and the government, they're not paying any attention to the cries of the working class for a clean voters list so we can have credible elections with results that are acceptable to all. What are your views with respect to the need for a clean voters list and simply at the place of poll biometric measures for voter IDs, for identifying voters and the avoidance of duplicated voting?
Well, my ideas go further than that. First of all, your party is the ones who brought these things like party list system. I don't believe in that. Sorry, that's communism. I believe in constituency politics.
But this is local government,
Yeah.
constituency politics.
Yeah, well, it should be strictly like that.
Yeah.
All politics should be like constituency politics, the parliament and everything else, right? And there should be a sanitized voting list for sure. There should be no question at all. They got to sanitize the voting list. And I would say, since all that has happened in this country, we need an international team to come in and supervise the elections and make sure it's run right. That's what I feel, right? at this point, or regional from the region, or something like that, and to make the election. I believe in free and fair elections. I believe, as you just said, with a one-seat majority on each side, and we come back to that rat Chandras Prasad, right? We come back to him because he nothing but a rat as far as I'm concerned, right? And they might laugh and say, "Yeah, we get it," but it might happen to them. It could happen to them, and we don't want that. The best answer is to get rid of the Chandradases and then people like them and come together and work together for the betterment of this country and the working poor of this country. Because I could guarantee you that they could do this, Guyanese would be so happy in this country, it won't be funny. Happiness would spread. You know, I'll tell you something. I love dogs. I have a dog. I saw a show, you can check it out, anybody. The last show last Sunday in 60 Minutes, where they explained that dogs became dogs from wolves because they had a friendliness gene. And the theories now existing is that mankind who came in this earth 100,000 years ago had 5 different species. And the reason man, as we know him, survived is because we had that friendship, friendly gene in us. So it isn't survival of the fittest, it's survival of the friendliest. And some of the most friendly people in the world is Guyanese people, right? Until they get angry and mad and they come in. If them politicians don't solve the problem, and the only way to solve the problems of Guyana today, with the oil money coming in particular, is to join hands and work it out. In them Arab countries are doing well, they join hands.
Join hands and work together.
Yes,
Survival of the friendliest.
of the friendliest.
Dr.
Yes.
Cheddi Jagan Jr., Joey, to all of us, I thank you very much for joining us on
Anytime.
Nation Watch, and I look forward to having a conversation such as this
Yes.
again
Yeah.
sometime in
You're
the near
good.
future.
I like you, and you're a patriot again. I know that.
Thank you.
And you know, one thing though, we must stop making excuses for others' mistakes. No, expose them, because we don't need mistakes. We need togetherness and love and harmony.
Togetherness.
Right.
Viewers, I want to thank you very much for joining us on this special edition of Nation Watch today, Monday. And thank you for staying with us for the duration of the program. Join us again next Sunday at 12 noon for another edition of Nation Watch. Until then, God bless.